This is the Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to St. Mark. Jesus and the disciples passed through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him. And 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they didn't understand what he was saying and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." And then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. First off, everyone knows the greatest is Muhammad Ali. All right. He said so. A long time ago, and actually not that long ago, but when I was in my previous parish, so some years ago now, that parish had a preschool that we operated, St. Stephen's Episcopal Day School, it was called. And it was like 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. And we did chapel every Thursday. And chapel was pretty simple. It didn't take very long. We would do a song, and then we would read a story and talk briefly about the story. We would do our prayers, and then we'd sing another song. And it was the funnest thing that I had to do at church. It was just a hoot working with the kids. They were a delight. And so they would gather and they would sit on the steps in front of the altar. It was a very different looking church than this, but this part was pretty much the same. So they would sit on the steps in front of the altar, and I would stand right here, and I'd read them their little story, and we'd sing the songs, and the teachers would sing along. And that's where I learned this little light of mine, singing with the kids. And I remember they were such kids, like 3 and 4, very curious. And they're also at the point where they're starting to feel like they know a lot, even if they don't. And I remember this one time, and I don't really remember how we got into the conversation at this point, but there was a little boy named Alex who was kind of, he was a Dennis the Menace kind of kid. You know what I mean? He's always kind of getting into trouble. And because my office was just down the hall from where the classrooms were, and you could hear his name kind of ring out down the hall. Alex? Anyway, we were in chapel, and we were having a conversation, and I don't remember how we got here, like I said, but it came up that I didn't live with my parents. And Alex, he really was puzzled by this. And he's like, "Well, who makes your breakfast?" I'm like, "Well, I make my own breakfast." Well, like who tucks you in? That's exactly what everyone did. And there were a couple other questions. And his fundamental question was, who takes care of you? And it was such a wonderful question and insight. Who takes care of us? I think that that's sort of fundamentally one of the things that sort of guides us and troubles us. Who takes care of us, and who in turn do I take care of? And at its heart, this is kind of what Christian mission is about, is answering this question. Of course, we have this sort of universal responsibility for the whole world, right? That's what we're called to do, to take care of those who are in need. And as we know, as we look around, the need is great. We can't possibly, as individuals, fulfill all the need in the world. Collectively, I'm pretty sure we can. We're at the point in the world where people are deprived of things that not because they don't exist, but because we haven't figured out a way to get it to them. There are barriers, not necessarily logistical barriers, but sometimes just selfishness. But this question about who takes care of me, I think is really an important part of our calling as Christian people. Because I think we're all pretty good at understanding that there are others that we should take care of, right? There are people in our immediate circles that we care about, and we meet their needs. We have family, of course, and we try to meet their needs, like little Alex, his parents. And we understand that we're meant to give from all the things that God has given us so that everyone in the world has what they need. I think it's harder to let other people take care of us. And this is the issue that I see most, is that culturally, we are very reluctant to let other people take care of us. We kind of look down on it, that if we need to be taken care of, that feels somehow like we're not doing right, we're being lazy, or we're too dependent. But all of us have stages in our lives where we really need someone to take care of us. And in fact, throughout most of our lives, we all have other people, right? None of us can be truly self-sufficient. I mean, you can try. Do you remember like this TV show, Grizzly Adams? All right. We're all of an age here. We might remember Grizzly Adams, right? So Grizzly Adams, he was like a mountain man. He went and moved out into the Rocky Mountains in like the 1800s. The TV show was set, and he was like living all alone. But even Grizzly Adams wasn't alone. I mean, he had that guy who became Uncle Jesse in the Dukes of Hazzard, who used to visit all the time. And his daughter came to visit him once, and other people were always passing by. And he had the bear, right? He had Gentle Ben, the big bear. Even Grizzly Adams needed other people. He needed someone to take care of. He had to take care of that bear, and the bear took care of him. That's kind of how it works. We all need people to take care of, but more importantly, we need to allow other people to fulfill their calling to take care of us. There is no shame in asking for help. And that is one of the hardest things for us to do. Because we have this sort of myth that we should all be self-sufficient and not need anybody. We live in a highly individualistic society that feels like we should be able to do everything on our own. And there should be no barriers a lot of times to what we feel is our due. That's one of the problems that we're facing as a society right now in the middle of a pandemic, is there are lots of people who feel like they don't really have obligations beyond themselves. So who takes care of us? It's something that probably all of us should be asking. And Alex asked a really good question. And I've been thinking about that answer because probably like you, I think the hardest thing about the experience with the pandemic was the isolation, not interacting with others. Right? I mean, there are probably some introverts among us who really like having a little more personal time. But all of us need one another. And I think that this community is a great example of how we can take care of one another. Because there is this impulse here to help. Right? Whenever someone's in need, there's usually more than enough people responding. But I wish we would ask for that need more, even if it's just prayer or someone to listen to us or someone to spend time with us. It's okay to ask. There's no shame. We were built to have other people take care of us. It's one of our purposes in life, to be taken care of. And for all of us self-sufficient go-getters who feel like we're the ones who should be helping, it's okay to be helped too. Alex was right. We all need someone to take care of us. Amen.